Hello again, and welcome back to the Animite Tales podcast, Super Casual Power Chat. It has been quite a long time since we last talked on this podcast, but with me I have here Kane and Sam returning once again.
Hey ho.
Hello.
Elongated hellos aside. Sam, it's been first of all, it's been actually quite a long time since I've spoken to you because we didn't have a podcast in between this, and you weren't in the most recent session for the Sunday games.
No, and I heard only good things happened.
Well, before we get on with that, how have you been?
Oh, were I just swearing on the podcast again?
You can refrain from it, but it's not bad.
Do it, Sam, do it.
What's the word? This has been a fracking tiring week. Last couple of weeks.
It's
been actually for the last couple of months. It's been very fracking tiring.
honestly.
Oh, one more thing.
Oh.
Alex has made me say this that Batman Beyond.
Right.
We now have to make Shui a thing because this is when the guy from Batman Beyond was born. So I have to make that lingo now.
That's what. Okay.
We have to make Shui a thing. But no, other than that, tiring, and I've been playing video games for a bit, which are quite good.
Fair enough. How about you, Kane? How are you doing?
Life.
Life.
Just life. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, you spoke about games, Sam, so I guess I'll talk about one particular thing that has sort of interested me recently. I've been getting it back into VR, but something that has actually come out that isn't a VR game is just recently, as of yesterday, the game Redfall has just been released. For those of you who don't know what Redfall is, it's pretty much a 4-person open world cooperative shooter, similar to that of Left 4 Dead 2 and Back 4 Blood, but instead it's vampires instead of zombies, and you get to use not only a multitude of different weapons, but also some of your characters have special abilities, and some of you have magic. So it's looking really cool. I haven't played it yet. I've just downloaded it, so I'm very much looking forward to that.
Not to be that guy, but the ratings are not very good.
Oh
Also-
no!
Also, not to be that
Some
guy, but
Some people are saying is it a 360 game? It's apparently that bad. So yeah.
also not to be that guy, but literally every word you said to kind of explain what the game is made me think, oh, this is gonna be a crap game.
I mean,
open world, online, 4-person, Left 4 Dead, but vampires.
well,
Pretty much everything you just said, there's like, nope.
well,
nope.
you know what? I have hope for it. Something's got to make me feel the same feeling of Left 4 Dead that I felt prior. But I will say, there's a lot of things that are obviously concerning me in the game. I'm not going into it completely.
I found a comment that's actually positive. It rated 5 stars. Best PowerPoint I've ever played.
Oh no! So
See, I dare think my game I played will probably have higher reviews than yours.
Go for it. What's the name of your game?
And not just for quote unquote pity points.
Go on.
It's a game that came out about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, from Ukraine, from the Frogware. Sherlock Holmes Awakened, a remake of the 2006 Sherlock Holmes Awakened game, which was for the it's a remake. And believe it or not, it had a remaster in 2008, and then they decided to make a remake of it current year, and it's quite a lot the same and quite a lot different than the one it's remaking from. For one, it's a sequel to Sherlock Holmes' first chapter, which came out a couple of years ago. So it's not, they haven't been doing this for like 10 odd years like it had been in the game before.
Yeah.
And in the original game, it's very much the idea that it's just people being like making like Cthulhu isn't a real thing, most likely, because there's nothing. You don't see anything insane, and you just see a bunch of people being horrible people, like I'd say like sacrificing people and making and the word.
There's a lot more of it's a lot more literal in the way in which they do things. They try not to make it too mystical. They try and make you think that you're actually going insane rather than actually going, oh, it's actual magic, guys. Like, this is real now. It's in this universe, and it's breaking the fourth wall by saying it's actual real magic. And it's more like, ooh, did that happen to you? Or were you just imagining it? Or was your character starting to lose their sanity because they're so scared?
Like, no, that, like, he doesn't, like, there's nothing to be, like, he never loses his sanity in the original game. Like, it just looks like a cult, a bizarre cult that believe in Cthulhu. They play it very straight, so you don't actually see anything. And this is not a spoiler. The original does end with the thought that, oh, does Cthulhu exist? Does he not? We'll never know. In fact, can I say the funniest part about the original ending?
Is it spoilers?
It implies that Moriarty is a bigger threat than Cthulhu.
Oh, okay, that's a little odd, isn't it?
Yeah, but the remake, it decides to go for a completely different turn, because in the game before, it is quite provable that Sherlock is kind of insane, because in the first game he has an imaginary friend that he talks to.
You don't?
No, I mean, like, is there and does stuff with him. Like, he helps him through the investigations and things.
Yeah, you don't have one of those?
No. But
it's just me then. Okay.
Like, in this game, you actually have, like, dreamscape sequences where you go into, like, this bizarre other dimension and do, like, puzzles. And also, there's a scene in a mental asylum you get threatened by a doll.
Well, what's the name of that game again? Sorry, what's the name of it?
Sherlock Holmes Awakened. A lot of stuff happens, and I'm not going to spoil if the ending is any different or not.
Okay, fair enough. Well,
because it might be that is magic a thing? Who knows? I'm not going to say how the ending changes.
Something I will say. I was saying this to you previously. I was saying this something about this. It's like, I like it when a show or when a book or when any kind of bit of fiction can make you question whether or not magic is actually a thing in the show or not. And I do like when it dances around the possibility of it, rather than always just going, yes, it's definitely a thing. Although I much prefer the idea of the questioning of it being more like to do with like other beings or divine beings or cosmic deities of some sort, like something that is powerful beyond our recognition. Even if like they go, oh, magic is a thing, it's like, yes, but do these gods exist? Like, is that a thing that we come to as a sort of attain, or is it something that is just completely frivolous? I do like that idea. There's, what is it, like in Glass, you're not ever sure whether or not the people actually have superpowers, or it's just a bundle of very odd circumstances around the characters, which is, I think is kind of cool for that. What about you, Kane? Is there anything in pop culture that has recently come up that has gotten your attention?
There's the new Armored Core game that's going to come out.
By From Software?
Yeah. That looks pretty good.
Have we got a gameplay trailer yet?
Yes, yeah, they have, and I've seen it, and it looks pretty nice.
Okay, I'll have to give that a check.
That's the giant robot game, isn't it?
Yes, it's a mecha game, yeah.
Gundams, but not Gundams. I mean, is the gameplay sort of Soulsy-ish, or is it completely different?
It looks kind of Soulsy-ish, but obviously quite different at the same time.
Well, I'll be sure to give it a look on the trailer just to make sure that we sort of know what to expect.
I need to hit up the old Armored Core games.
I've never really touched them. I feel like I might have played one at one point, but like as like a one-off sort of thing. But yeah, I definitely have to have a look at that. Do you know what the release date is for that?
Yeah, I think it's like the 25th of August.
Oh, okay, so it's actually relatively soon.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's not that far.
That's 6 days before my birthday.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's the 25th. Yeah.
Oh, the
nice.
25th. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a day before my birthday then.
Ah,
Yeah.
no, I think that's quite nice though. That like a lot of games are sort of like coming out now. Obviously, we're still waiting on the DLC for Elden Ring, although we know that we have at least one bit of proof to prove that it is going to exist, but that's about it. I wonder, I genuinely do wonder as to whether or not they're going to do what they did with Bloodborne and Dark Souls. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to do what they did with Bloodborne, where they're just going to make one DLC, or if they're going to do what Dark Souls 2 and 3 did, where they make multiple separate DLCs as a whole. Now, fair enough with Bloodborne, it made more sense that they only had one big one because they started realizing that if they were to make two, it was all going to be set in the same place anyway. So they eventually just had it that it was one big one. But with
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but Dark Souls, the OG one, I'm pretty sure did the same. Had one DLC.
I
So
think
I could be
you're
wrong.
right.
I think it was just the Artorias one.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember the name of it. But I think it was like the True Darkness or something like that, or the Darkness of Man, or Humanity or something like that. And it had like Manus and obviously Artorias. Yeah, that was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I hope for more DLC. I would love to see if they did maybe one in the past and one in the future. Having it. No, go on.
Those surprised I haven't done yet. Just like a boss, just like a boss selector.
That's what I've been saying for years, ever since.
Do you know what they should do? They should have in Elden Ring, just have like the 3 Dark Souls, just have the bosses from them.
That would be.
But
great.
in like a weird, weird dimensional things happen because multiverse is everything now. It's invaded every inch of our lives.
I mean,
why not Elden Ring?
I would agree if it wasn't for the fact that those games are heavily independent. Well, at least the creation of them are very much on their lore. So
yes, yeah.
They don't really do things that go outside of that.
I mean, I'd still love a dungeon system similar to what they did in Bloodborne, but actually having it where like you can fight different bosses. Now, Sekiro did this, didn't they? They actually had a system where you could actually do boss fights.
You could just choose who to fight. They even added secret or extra variants of like 3 of the bosses to make them give them new movesets and stuff.
Which was cool. I mean, super difficult.
The Granichiro one, you couldn't just deflect his lightning because he deflected them back at you, so you had to do it then again.
Became the final boss fight of Twilight Princess.
Essentially, you just spent like a bit longer deflecting lightning. Ishin's was the most boring one out of those 3, though.
What was Ishin's again? I can't remember. Was it just?
It just added like 2 It just added like 2 new spear moves. It wasn't very interesting.
I would have thought.
Oh well, okay, no. It added that, and he had like an 360 like massive wide slash thing.
Was that with the Mortal Blade? Did he use the Mortal Blade? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, he used the Mortal Blade, but it's like a massive, ridiculous like area attack. Then Father Owls just adds like a bunch of wacky stuff that he can now do.
Yes, yeah.
His is probably the toughest. Or probably the most. I don't know about most interesting. I feel like that depends, but he probably got the most buff out of it. I
feel like one of the things that makes Owl and Genichiro different from Ishin is the fact that Ishin, when he appears, he is supposed to be like pure power. Whereas like Owl and Genichiro, they're supposed to have like a multitude of different things that they do. But as the fight progresses with Ishin, he does start getting different things, but it's nothing that you haven't seen before until when he just rocks up and pulls a gun out on you. Then everything changes. But the thing is,
he learned the Glock style. But, aside from that,
motherfucker doesn't know I just came from the streets of Yharnam. As he just pulls out a glat and just starts like shooting at you. But I was gonna say, his sword techniques are his own, but then he pulls out a spear, and it's the fighting style of the person who he defeated years ago. And then he pulls out lightning, which is the way of Tomoe, which his grandson later learned, and that's one of his main things. So it's literally showing all of these different aspects. But if you really take it from what it is, you actually can also see the fact that like his sword style is definitely like a very interesting thing. But there's an argument that he might not have ever actually learned or created never created any of his own techniques, but instead was
literally the entire Ashina fighting style is his.
I thought the Ashina style is supposed to be like it's passed down from Ashina to Ashina.
No, I'm pretty sure that was like his thing.
Oh, okay.
Because obviously they weren't that big of a place until, as far as I remember anyway. Could be wrong. They weren't that big until like the Civil War, and they took independence for themselves. And that was only because of Ishin, because of his strength. And he obviously then started teaching everyone the Ashina ways, his sword fighting style. So
fair enough. I was not aware of that, but then again, I never really looked too deep into that lore, to be honest. Which I definitely feel like I was a shame.
I get absorbed into lore like Elder Scrolls. It's an addiction.
I like that though. I like it when something actually has a very big amount of vast amount of lore and stuff that I can read and stuff. Like learning about all of the different types of smithing. I got really into like the ones in Elder Scrolls for such a long time as well. But yeah, that was good fun. I will say something that I've done recently. I've just now caught up on all of the manga of Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm now up to date. And it's amazing. I'm not going to spoil, but it has been definitely changing a lot of my opinions on things in the terms of the way in which power systems work and the way in which certain fighting styles work and stuff like that. It's a very interesting power system. Again, I won't really go into it too much because I feel like people need to watch it for themselves. But it's very
all I need to do is get you into Hunter x Hunter, because then you can learn about that.
You will never do that. That is an absolute impossibility.
I think you'll get into it.
I've been
you'll get into it.
No.
To be honest with you, once you learn about the power system, I think you'll get addicted to it.
I've watched a few things on it, and I've seen like the episodes where they explain it, and I'm like, cool. And I even tried to watch the first 5 episodes, and I got bored. It was just not interesting.
Isn't the power system 30 plus episodes in? Because I watched a good chunk of it.
It is.
Get the powers.
Yeah,
they just got you can be strong by lifting weights.
To give it a name, the power system isn't actually introduced until the beginning of the Heaven Arena arc, which is an entire arc later after one major arc and one minor arc.
Nen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nen.
But it's NEN. But yes, that is probably one of the best power systems I've it's definitely one of the oldest and best ones in my opinion.
My favorite power systems that I've seen is Cursed Energy from Jujutsu Kaisen, Quirks, because I do like the aspect of some of it being random and stuff. I like the idea of that. Don't get me wrong, Ki, Chakra, and Mana from all of the different shows. They're really interesting, like Black Clover and stuff like that. They're really interesting, but they do seem relatively generic, and they are just a complete, you have no idea what you're going to get. And I mean, yeah, fair enough, the same thing as with cursed techniques and stuff like that, but there's something about the way in which it's done is a little odd. I will say, though,
it's because there's rules and constrictions, and then there's also the fact that there's a base power system that then allows you to do other stuff, and then there's also another factor that adds you I'm trying to think of the word, a uniqueness to every individual user, because every individual user can do a different thing, which is what I think you'd like Hunter x Hunter. is exactly what that is. It is a base power system that is extremely flexible, and then has it that every user has a unique base ability that they created themselves, not were born with, created.
I mean, I hear you, but I don't know. It's just not. I don't know why. It just doesn't interest me, which is weird. No, go on.
It's a good one that I've seen recently. That's it's from a board game, but also from a video game.
No.
It was Shadowrun. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. I've seen it.
It's got a fun system of there's like four different types of magic, and then there's the technological side of it.
Oh, okay.
So there's there's the summoners that have like, I'm going to summon spirits from like, a trash can spirit, or the spirits of.
I was just going to say, I will say that there are some really fun things that you can do in a lot of systems like that. There are a lot of really weird, wacky things. Something that I have now started to read because I had no other choice because there's nothing else for me to read. Is I've been picking back up Black Clover. That magic system.
I don't know what you say. There's nothing else to read.
Nothing else to read, Kay. Nothing else.
There's like a trillion. I even gave you Sakamoto Days, which arguably has some of the best fight scenes I've ever seen.
You're not the first person. Actually, no, you are the first person to recommend that to me. But you're not the last person, nor the most recent person to recommend me that.
It's great.
I've heard good things, and I've heard that they do the fights very well. Which I do need to get into.
I would recommend it if you're into like comedy, slice of life, but also really good fighting scenes, action, and story. I would definitely recommend.
I feel like I don't know if you guys have heard of this one yet, but like I feel like Bill has potentially lost his edge in the terms of recommending me pieces, because he used to recommend pieces to me. I'd try and get into them, watch them, and enjoy them. Over the last couple of years, that's sort of slumped down. The most recent one that he's tried to recommend to me is Bungo Stray Dogs, and I don't know if either of you have seen it.
No, I haven't seen it.
Never even heard of it.
I don't even know what it is, so maybe I need to look it up. But I tried to read the blurb, and it just seemed very, very meh. I don't know.
Most anime sounds like that when you read the blurb, though.
That's fair. That's actually a fair point.
That's the thing. Like I always say, anime, like the first episode is usually always the worst, and the blurbs are because they all sound so generic until you get into like the.
I'm actually genuinely trying to figure out a first episode that was actually good enough that you could just show the first episode and you'd be like, okay, I'm sold. And I was thinking, no, My Hero Academia needs at least 2 episodes because it's like a 2-parter. And I was thinking, I know, Dragon Ball. No, not Dragon Ball, because it takes forever to get into anything. And I love Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is what I grew up on before anyone gets upset. But like the
thing is though. Either it's not a good episode, or they put all the weird, like, horny, like, anime traits in the first episode, like Overlord.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I will say Fire Force. Fire Force is a really good one, but they suffer from the similar things. But the first episode of Fire Force is really good, but it doesn't. I will say this, and this is the same issue that I sort of had with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, is that the first episode of both Fullmetal Alchemist and the first episode of Fire Force do not do either of them as much justice, because it just seems like, this is the only thing that they're going to be doing, and then you realise, like, yeah, they have a power system, they have a lot of intrigue, and there's a lot of strategy to what they have to do. And then there's a massive conspiracy underground, and the entire time that you're there, you're also just watching them as they're trying to figure it out, and you don't even know what's going on. And it's, yeah. That and also just the incredible... Sorry, again?
Has Code Geass got a good first episode? Again, I can't remember.
Code Geass is... It sets you up for everything. Like, it gives you the general vibe of everything, of like the main character in that lot, but I'd argue it leaves you with I think the way Code Geass does it is it leaves you with a lot more questions than you came in with.
Yeah,
which is kind of the hook with it.
In the first episode of Code Geass, does it end with C2 just getting out of the
All right, I'm just gonna put the spoiler if you don't want to know anything about the first episode of Code Geass, which came out years ago, but whatever. So it starts off with Lush wrecking a noble at chess.
No, I know. I was just going to say, like, for the sake of spoilers, does it end with him getting a quote unquote ability, or is that the beginning of the next episode?
No, he does end. He does show off his ability at the end of the first episode, but you're led to believe that two characters die that don't actually die.
That is true, but one thing I do quite like about it is
you're also introduced to the whole like world politics at the beginning, essentially, because it just goes, okay, Britannia has conquered everywhere, and there's these things called nightmares that they basically use to wreck everyone because no one else had them.
Yes.
And then they introduced the person running Area 11 or Japan at that moment, and they sort of show the personality he's got. They show that there's a resistance going on and other things like that. So they give you quite a bit of info in the first episode.
Yeah. And they also show you the power system that may very well be used.
They don't explain it. They just go, man has eye powers and he can just tell people to kill themselves, and that's it. Because the second episode is him figuring out his or some of his limitations.
Yes,
with the ability. Yeah.
Isn't that when he gets the girl to like draw like a line on the wall and it turns out like 42 days or something?
That's a couple episodes later, but yeah, he basically tells someone to every day draw a line just to test how long his Geass can work on someone. Just basically because he wants to know, because he knows it can only work on someone one time, but he wants to know because he does it on his teacher. Because he asks him what he has to study on for the test, and the teacher tells him, he tries it again, and then the guy just says, "Oh, nice try. Go back to studying."
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, nice try. Why don't you study a bit harder? Maybe you'll figure it out." It's like, it's a very clever way in which they do it, because it is he does use it in the sort of obvious ways, as to how anyone would try to use it. Except from, and here's something that I will give the writer credit for. They didn't do the really disgusting thing of, and I make the person do things that like is very much socially unacceptable. I mean, he still controls them to do menial tasks, but it's not anything overtly.
He doesn't do weird lewd things.
Yes, he doesn't do weird lewd things. Let's stick with that, yeah.
No, everyone else around him does the weird lewd things.
Yeah. But that's without both his knowledge or his powers being involved. And also him being involved. He has no involvement in that.
Yeah. I was trying to think if there's... Actually, there is two I could think of that I think do genuinely have good first episodes.
I was actually going to say Code Geass is now making that list for me, because I completely forgot about that.
Besides Code Geass, but I'm trying to think if it had any weird...
too many times. I don't know if I'd say Trigun. That introduces you to the three characters that are going to matter for a long period of time. I can't
say Trigun only because I watched the first episode of Trigun and I was like, eh.
But you don't like any shows like that, Joe. So that
hang on a sec. I watched Trigun. I enjoyed Trigun. It was just that the first episode did not suck me in the way that it should have done. It's cool and badass and it's ridiculous, but it's just.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember Cowboy Bebop's first episode.
So
that was the one where they get the dog.
Negates itself.
That was the one where they get the dog, which was a very meh episode.
Yeah, because all I remember is it just introduces you to like two of the leading casts.
Yeah,
and what they do for a living.
Yeah, it's just kind of they get the dog and they find out they can't sell the dog.
Yeah,
I can't remember. That's literally all I can remember of that episode.
I was gonna say,
but no, the one I think of is have you ever seen Vandred?
No,
it's got a good. Heard of that. Oh, it's a good series. It's got a good first episode. Have you heard of Star Trek Voyager?
I have heard of it.
Yes, yeah.
You know the premise of they essentially like two kind of warring factions essentially get trapped essentially get on the ship and then fly like thousands of miles away, then have to get home. Essentially, it's that, except the warring factions are males and females because they've essentially
you
split
told me
out.
about this before. Yeah.
Yeah, they've essentially split out into two separate factions on two different worlds, and like the first opening like 2 minutes, I think, is like propaganda as against women being like vampires, which is very hilarious.
I will say one actually. I think I does actually have a good starting one as Spy X Family.
I still haven't seen that. I was actually going to say 3 right off the bat. Naruto, One Piece, Hellsing Ultimate.
Hellsing I can agree with. I can't agree with the other 2.
Really? Okay. My argument for at the very least One Piece is it literally sets you up with everything you need to know. Has serious moments, has silly moments, has action, and has an interestingly... even in the first episode, it immediately bursts out with all of the possibilities that the world is going to give you by just showing and sharing things.
I guess so, yeah. Because the first episode is just them on the ship, isn't it?
Yeah, he wakes up, gets out of the barrel, and then he fights Alvida, and it's just like, oh,
there's
what?
There's only the second episode they get to the island, isn't it? So,
yeah. So literally every bit of action that you need to see happens then and there, and then it just goes on to the thing of, oh, what are you going to do now that you have your little ship? Well, I'm going to go off and find. Find someone, and it's like,
actually, now I remember it. Now you say about it. Yeah, actually, no, that is not a bad starting episode.
And the reason I said Naruto is because it does actually encompass everything that is pretty much going to happen in the series, from the moment that he's like being shunned to the moment that he's being somewhat accepted by at least one person, and it perfectly reflects the entire series of like people hating him, disrespecting him, and shunning him, to suddenly realizing, oh, he actually is a decent kid, and eventually grows into like one of the most beloved characters in the show. I will say though, removing all of that for a second, it's also got enough action and enough lore that it builds up into this thing where you sort of know what you're getting into, and it somewhat explains everything in a decent way. Again, similar to Naruto, similar to One Piece, it also shows you the silly side, the action, the severity, and even having tear shedding moments, which I think works really well for it. I will say later episodes do definitely let it down somewhat. Considering if you were to compare the first episode of Naruto to the first episode of Boruto, it would be one of those things where you just go, oh dear God, no. I
mean, I'll say this, my friend decided to watch all of Naruto, but he told me explicitly he's going to skip out all of the filler.
Fair
so
enough.
He skipped out about, was it 50-60% of the actual show? Which means it's a bad show.
I wouldn't say it's bad show because of filler.
If you're told to skip 60% of the show because it's not good,
I'm sorry, but if you were told not to
it does make it a bad show. It does not make the product itself necessarily bad, but for the sense of being a show, if you have to skip out, if people are willingly choosing to skip out the majority of it because they do not wish to watch it, then as a show, that makes it bad.
If it does not add anything.
As a series, I would say it is good. But the only reason there is so much filler is because of obviously they had to stop. Because they did not catch up.
I can at least agree with that then. Yeah, I can at least agree with that, because I don't think it's necessarily a bad series or a bad it's definitely not a bad anime, or at least there's not a bad concept and story narratively, but in the terms of the way in which it was done as an actual show and the way that it was being run, I can definitely agree that it's a bad show if it's like, we're going to now do 50 flashbacks per 4 episodes.
It's so bad.
You know how I hate flashbacks.
Oh, shut up, Sam. You and your flashbacks.
It's so bad that the main villain puts everyone in a filler arc.
I forgot about that. Also, one of the other villains actually puts them in a. Oh my gosh, they actually put them in a villain arc, but they also put them in a movie as well, which is also technically a filler. I forgot about that. Oh god, you're so right.
Actually, I was going to say Soul Eater, but then I remembered the whole weird pervy cat thing that was for the most of the first episode.
Yeah, I will say I do love Soul Eater, but the only problem is that its first episode really does not show.
I literally didn't watch Soul Eater ages ago because of that first episode. So
You read it though.
It does get better.
I read it years later,
and you actually did enjoy it.
Yeah, but reading it and watching it are completely different.
Yes, absolutely,
stories.
100%. Like I'm not going to disagree with you.
There are two more besides the one I had in mind. Remember the one I keep telling you to watch, Charlotte.
I knew you were going to say Charlotte because I've also heard that its first episode is actually quite good.
Yeah, it is because it sets up the whole plot and premise, and also makes you both curious about the main character and think, God, this guy's a colossal dickhead. Because literally, one of the things he does, his power is that if he looks in someone's eyes, he can possess their body for like 5 seconds. And of course, he uses and abuses it to cheat and do pervy things. But one of the things he does, he tries to get a girlfriend by doing that on her and makes her walk into traffic so that he can save her.
Oh,
that happens. That's our hero. But of course, like over the episodes, he does change and grow and become sympathetic and a better person.
I will say,
oh no,
go on.
Yeah. And it has a power system I think you might actually like.
What's the other one?
It's was one actually made by the same person that did Charlotte called Angel Beats. Which I
have heard of Angel Beats. I don't know anything about it. I don't know.
It's a fun anime. It's also quite depressing at points, much like Charlotte. Essentially, the whole premise is that it's about these, like, I'm trying to remember if they know that they're dead.
Yeah, isn't it supposed to be like? Isn't it supposed to be people who died and they're being reincarnated as people by God or something?
Oh, they're not reincarnated. They've essentially moved to this like school dimension.
Oh,
that is like purgatory essentially. And they don't actually know what they're doing there or how they can't remember their past. No, the main character can't remember his past. The other ones can, and they don't know. And there is this woman there who is the titular angel, who's essentially kind of like hacked into the Matrix and has kind of superpowers. It's hard to explain because this is things I watched this years ago. And I can only remember so many bits. But I remember, I think it opens up with him waking up and then going to talk to her and then being instantly killed and then just kind of waking up again in this because they can't die there. They can only get hurt.
I can't remember if it's another one of those situations of a 2-parter, but I was actually going to say that time I got reincarnated as a slime.
Yeah, that's a good opening, yeah.
I can't remember if it's... Well, it must have been a good opening because it was one of the first ones I ever showed Siobhan, who, by the way, was adamant that she didn't want to watch anime, and now she loves it. So it must have been good enough, and I was like, alright, well, we'll just watch this episode. If you don't like it, that's it. And she was like, the slime is adorable, I must continue watching. So, I mean, you know what? It works to some degree.
What was the first episode of Death Note?
He gets the Death Note.
Yeah, I know, but because it's something like he's in class and he watches something fall out the sky and then he walks over and it's the Death Note and then there's like a robbery at a shop at something, isn't there? And he writes the dude's name in it, and then they get hit by like a truck or something.
Hit by a truck. Truck-kun kills him.
Yeah,
I think that's because that was the only episode of Death Note I watched, and I thought, nah, it's not for me.
I watched I watched about 3 episodes, and that was around about the time that I stopped. But I did think it was okay. I thought it was okay.
Am I the only person here that actually? Oh wow!
I assume that you've watched all the way through.
Yeah.
I remembered another one. That's another 2 that are actually good because one of them is right in front of me.
Okay.
Devil is a part-timer.
I've heard about that one. I've heard that it's got a very good first episode because that it does hook people, but I haven't seen it myself, so I can't make a judgment.
It's a good fun anime. And the other one was Tanya Saga of Evil.
Oh, okay.
Because that the first episode, very fun. Very much shows that the main character is very evil.
But
it's very smart.
You've not seen Black Clover, have you, Sam?
Nope, don't tend to. It sounds like it's going to be so long.
I was going to say, I don't think Black Clover could count as a good first episode.
It's so generic.
It is. It is painfully generic. Now, I will say, it gets so much better, and the way in which they develop the story is very good. But the very first time I watched it, which was I sat with Bill as he put it on in front of me, and at the very end of the episode, I went, "Cool, no, done." And this was like 5 years ago or something. And
early Black Clover was very mid.
It was absolutely very mid, and the character.
It took a while for Black Clover to like actually get pretty all right.
I think it was around about the time that Black Catcher was the actual opening when people started realizing, oh my gosh, I've gotten sunken so much time into this and it's very good. My moment where I realized that it was a good or enjoyable series was actually pretty early in, but it was that thing of it still did have the taint of that generic anime nonsense, because it's that thing of like, oh, one character who's down on his luck compared to everyone else in the world, shunned because of a specific factor of his life, super screamy all the time, and always says how he's going to be the best, and then literally says he is going to be the Wizard King. And I was like, cool, okay, so ticked off Dragon Ball, Naruto, and One Piece all in one go. Gets a power that no one else has in the world.
I mean, you also forgot My Hero while you're at it. But...
I mean, yeah, I was literally about to say, also he gets a power that no one else has in the world, and he also starts off with no powers, so that literally ticks off... yeah, it ticks off My Hero Academia.
I think, if I remember correctly, Vinland Saga, I quite liked the first episode.
I watched the first episode, and I did actually get bored. Dr. Stone. I never went further than I think 2 or 3 episodes into Dr. Stone, but I do want to go. I do want to get back into it. That had a pretty decent premise. But I was going to move on to something actually, because now that we've talked a bit about anime, and now that we've also talked about some stuff to do with video games, I think it's now time to talk about Animite Tales.
That's not as fun.
Because I was gonna say, two big things happened very recently. So obviously we've had some changes, we've had some add-ons, some bits and bobs in the rules and the power compendium, as well as the website itself. We keep updating the powers so that everyone who wants to play the game can have it as up to date as possible. Any rule changes or anything that happen. In the most recent episode, Sam, you don't know what happened, did you?
From what I have gathered, TPK has happened, or at the very least, Conrad's character has died again.
So, to give you,
considering at work, he told me for once you can finally lose your hand on heart.
Yes, so I'll give you a rundown because you weren't there, neither was Bill. So, because that you guys weren't there, I had to do a very specific thing. So. In the last episode that you were in, an arcade sent someone was upstairs in Felix's apartment, which had been abandoned for over 2.5 months. He sensed that this particular person was not very strong, and they walked out. And it was a young woman who was in her pajamas. She immediately got scared when she realised that there were not only 3 people walking up the stairs, but also that one of them was Felix. And again, Felix and Anarche are incredibly famous, but Felix would be very much famous to these people because that he both comes from that place and it's also his house that she's living in. She tells them a story about the fact that the Irish City isn't the way that it used to be. Heroes are still trying to fight people, but parts of certain aspects of the government are kind of not working, and only heroes and certain members of the military are actually trying to fend off against banned users, and to no real good avail. So she eventually got into that building and basically wanted to stay there so that then she wouldn't have to deal with all the dying. Eventually, she came downstairs fully dressed to speak to the rest of the party. She had a little chat with them, only to sort of then clasp her hands together and then teleport everyone in the entire party away. To which Felix, Ferb, and Anarche got teleported to to the desert of Emjanarlinia. And when they got back to the apartment, Aldous and Stan were gone. What then followed suit was them being attacked by an invisible creature that seemed to have multiple abilities, and later on a very tired-looking young man who wielded a katana who seemed to have been able to use an energy that harmed everyone in the party regardless of willpower. The individual was able to take down Ferb, then later on was able to just barely survive against Felix and take down both Felix and Ferb and very badly injure Anarche, but not before Anarche was able to pull off his Black Lightning attack using Thor's axe and was able to completely erase this dude. So there's nothing left of him. But in his final attack that he landed against the entire party, Ferb got back up thanks to Anarche reviving him, healing him, but then he got hit so hard he went into fatal moments and he failed all 3 of his saves, therefore killing him. Ferb was able to, however, kill the spirit thing that this guy was able to summon, but the abilities that this dude had was the Mortality Child ability known as Soul Manipulation. I based him off of a character called Yuta Okotsu from Jujutsu Kaisen. I very rarely do stuff to this level of a degree, but I wanted it to be something where it was absolute in the fact that I did that, because almost every other character that I've done like this, where I've taken a character or ripped them off or anything like this, I wanted this guy to actually be it's all about this dude. It's all about this guy was basically going to be like a freaking saga fighting him, and it was. I genuinely had to use strategy. Rather than just my number bigger than your number. I actually had to use strats to do things against the party. The party still won, however. Anarche is now on 50-something health. Felix is down. He is unconscious, and Ferb is dead. However, it's now gone from when the last episode finished. It's now gone from an hour and 21 hours and 35 minutes remaining. It's now 20 hours and 30 minutes remaining. So it's been an hour and 5 minutes since the last session happened. So in the next session that we have you and or Bill, we might very well see what happened and where you were sent. So we'll see from that perspective. And yes, I said this to Connor. Keep an eye on your character. You might want to have another one just in case, but I said, but as long as Sam gets to you quickly enough, hand on heart will just work. You'll be fine. So, and again, since he's very recently died, Anarche does have the pocket dimension, so he'll be able to stay nice and fresh.
Just like I like my dead bodies.
Oh,
no, that's grand.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that's grand. I was going to say, figured out another anime with a good opening.
Nothing crying out. Anyway, but yeah, that's
yeah.
You're now up to date with everything. You sort of now know everything that's going on.
I mean, so essentially teleported away, and then they died.
Teleported away. Ferb died. Felix got taken down, and Anarche won.
Anarche spammed his, death move.
I mean, I don't think there was any spam.
What is spamming my death move, Sam?
Kind of spamming save scumming with your death move.
Save scumming? Sorry, can I get some clarification?
No.
Okay.
I offer no clarity.
Are you talking about his Phantom Zone ability?
No, his just one ability to kill anything.
Oh, he doesn't have an ability that can kill anything.
Almost anything.
I'm still
I don't
confused
know.
on what one you're talking about. I have
Oh
quite
yeah,
a few of those
I mean that also doesn't narrow it down, considering like you do so much damage anyway, but also you have like 3 super moves that are ridiculous.
Exactly.
So considering you got the Black Lightning with the axe, which has to proc, and I think actually it's almost as difficult to pull off as a Black Flash. Although for you, that's not very
actually,
difficult.
it's pretty easy actually if I get the right rolls.
Yeah,
but-
although based on your rolls in the last session, you only pulled it off once, the Black Lightning.
Yeah.
And you at least wielded it at least 3 times. But yeah, so that was
4,
cool.
I think.
I
No,
think
it would have been 3. It would
I
have been
think
3.
yeah, because you did the
It was
1.5,
it was
then 2 times.
it was
then
2. It was just 2 times, and then it was black.
That's it. Yeah. And then there was something else as well, wasn't it? Because obviously you have Asriel's Blade, which allows you to stockpile 204 points of damage.
Yeah, which I didn't use.
No, but that's still something you have. But also something that is actually quite nice is for once I've been able to have it where I've put you guys into a position where you felt like you had to use your best moves, which come at a price. Now, the Phantom Zone ability that you use is a mode that you can use for a certain amount of minutes, but for every minute, it takes half an hour. Now, you did just recently get an accolade, which that will now be shifted down to 15 minutes every minute. However, because that you were in that mode before that particular rule was added, you still have to wait an hour before you can next use it.
Only an hour for my immortality. It's fine.
Yeah, for your temporary immortality. And then the other one is Felix's massive combo that can do 1d12 plus 1 hits.
Which flopped.
He landed 3. But yeah, absolutely.
He landed 2, Joe.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he landed some hits.
He landed because he landed 1 hit, and then he chose to use that ability as his other action.
Did Ferb manage to do anything?
Yeah, he did.
Ferb did actually damage the guy, but the only problem is that he had done what's known as a lifeline, which basically means any damage that the person who's attached to a lifeline takes will only receive half, and the other person on the other end of the lifeline will then receive the other half of the damage. And Ferb was on the other half of it, so he was damaging himself.
Why did he do that?
He didn't know that was the case. He had no idea until it was too late. As I said, there was a lot of strategies that I had to pull off, and because I was able to get Anarche out of the way, Anarche couldn't even warn him, because Anarche had noticed that there was something wrong with his aura, told him, but he had no idea what it was, because again, the individual who had attached himself to Ferb did so.
Also, you just made him. You've utterly decimated him, so he can't even take his powers and make us immortal now. Hope you're happy, Anarche.
Well, I am actually.
I mean, let's
Fergus
be honest.
Can't get his body.
Let's be honest. Fergus can't get his body, and also anyone who, because the teleporter girl Hariel is still out there, and so the last thing that you want is also her to go, "Oh no!" It grabs body, teleports anyway.
I mean, you forget with Spatial, I can just go where she goes.
That's true, unless if someone is very clever with how they can manipulate space, and without spoiling,
Also, that
she's
could
very
just go
clever.
bad for us because we could just walk into a room with 6 strong people in it. So,
thing is, though,
we're gonna follow her just immediately in the Yeah, I just realised the 6 people. You're just immediately in the council room. Aldous, this was a bad plan.
Yeah.
I mean, you say that, but then there's also Anarche with his thunder stick.
I would be fine with that if I didn't have 57 health.
Yeah, that's
well,
right.
you know, that's
anyone can one tap me at this point. It's,
that's when I smack the ground and use my natural 20 of thingy for the day, so everyone heals 4 times.
That would be helpful. That would definitely be helpful.
Exactly.
Although the only issue is that it does also heal your opponents. But then again, if it's at the beginning...
Yeah, but they'd be at max health. So
if it's at the beginning of a fight, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. See? Be grand,
you'd
be
still be
perfect.
so screwed if you did.
I mean, I prefer you do that before we teleport there, but you know.
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking. I was imagining like that'd be the first action, and then we move.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah. So in the next session, we'll be hopefully seeing either what goes on with your characters, both you and Bill's. So Aldous and Sam, Aldous and Stan. I did it again. Ever since you did it that one time, I now can't stop doing it.
Joke's on you. I haven't done it since then. So
Yeah, I know. And also we'll hopefully see what happens with Anarchy and the gang, because it's going to be quite fascinating to see both how everyone reacts to the next lot of stuff that I have in stock for you. I will say it's also very much looking like I don't think I have anything left to throw at you of anywhere near that scale. By the way, you already said the same thing to me. You're like, I don't think that there's anything that you could throw at us that wouldn't be completely unfair, because he was the peak. The only way that he could have been any stronger is
he was a max healer who could deal heavy amounts of damage. You're not gonna.
Do you want to know something?
You're not gonna get any better.
A little irritating. It's not upsetting, but it's a little irritating.
Well,
his boss health was 900.
Yeah.
Not 1,000.
Yeah, but as you said, he healed like 500 or something.
He
basically healed over half.
He nearly healed 500. Yeah, I think it was like he nearly healed like around about 400 and something. It was insane in total. But yeah,
he healed like half his health. So
yeah,
he had basically the equivalent over 1,000 HP.
Yes, yeah. Which is another reason as to why healing characters are so.
Also, you had an ability that, so it basically didn't matter that he had 1,000. He could have had He could have had 700 and not much.
Yeah, true. I think the funny thing is that like he didn't even go into his first 400 until Felix showed up, and then after that it was like, okay, he's taken a lot of severe damage, but he's not that bad off, and then that's when you pulled out all of the stops, and it was going from like, oh yeah, he's got 400, oh he's got now 5, 6, 7, 800 damage, and yeah, it stepped up a game when you got into the fray, which was quite funny.
Why do you use my ranged attacks for so long?
Yeah, that's true. Keep your distance. But all I was going to say was after this campaign is over, which it should be after. So the Crucible of Avarice campaign will come to an end after 2 major events have happened. The first one is after Anarchy. Either Anarchy gains the Miracle Stone, or beats the what's it called? Or beats the fight. Basically, the entire party fight in the war and win. Or obviously lose, because obviously, you guys can still potentially lose. It's a very slim chance at this point, but still, it's a possibility. And then the last thing is pretty much just the final fight against the brothers, because it's sort of like the last sort of piece for the main story to sort of take itself upon itself. So then once that's happened, more than likely we'll be getting the next campaign, which is a hero campaign set in a university where everyone's trying to become heroes. And
Yay.
Sam, you have your character. What was it? Matthew Harcourt. Harcourt, that's it.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure you're still using the picture of him for this. I'm assuming.
I am indeed.
You've been using it for a bit. Yeah. Because much like every character I own, I have at least 3 different types of artwork for him.
That's also true. You had 3 different types of artwork for Adrian as well. So you know what?
Yeah.
That's gonna be good to see. I'm looking forward to you sort of playing as a different type of character as well. Kane, you've now sorted out your character theoretically.
I love the theoretically part. Yes,
I'm pretty sure you're solid on the idea now, aren't you?
I kind of just want to change it now. No, it's
You say that, but I know you don't, because it was such a nightmare for you to come up with one, because you just kept not knowing, and I get that feeling so often. So
Joe, you know what? I've been playing Shadow. I'm going to change my character now to be just someone with technopathy and chemistry, so we can just make loads of robots and manipulate them that way.
Good luck.
Just going to play a rigger from now on. Rigger and Decker.
Good luck.
Just an army of robots with my command.
I mean, to be fair, you tried to do something relatively similar with Utility Lily, and that didn't really work out for you.
Because she didn't have any good robots.
You also put them in the worst place scenario for that build.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't put him anywhere. Technically, Sam chose to be in that situation.
Yeah.
And I think it was just hilarious that on the exact episode that we were like, all right, you guys now get the chance to go back to civilization. You get to go back to, and that was the episode. Like, nah, I'm not going to play as I'm not going to play as Utility Lily anymore.
Yeah, she's out there going back to being what's the term they use now? An influencer?
Yes, yeah.
Going back out there with a crowd and such.
Oh dear. But hopefully we shall see new things arise when it comes to the hero campaign, because there will be more things for us to look into. There will be more things for us to be concerned about, because it's not just going to be about like how much damage do you do, how much damage does the opponent do. There's going to be a lot of different things, and because we're not allowing the mechanic of at least the willpower path of spirit, you won't be able to just get one particular stat high enough and go, yep, I can now ignore all of these particular mechanics. If your power works very well against one particular person, or works very well against all particular types of people, then that's just like, oh, man, this particular character is born very lucky, and therefore it's going to be more about that than actually anything like that. And it's also going to be like how people use their abilities, rather than just going, cool, I add willpower to it, and now it's just as good as anyone else's. And
you know what? We get to play morally good people.
Yes.
Which will make a big change for 90% of the group.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm definitely a morally good character. Yes.
Because
it good comes in all shapes and sizes.
It definitely changes the concept, though, because it's that thing of like, okay, well, now you can't just go, oh, I'm going to fight the villain and kill him, because it's like, okay, yeah, but it's against the law to kill someone, and you
only
also,
if they find out.
And there's also the other situation of like in game, you also have to have that situation of like there might be people who are considered as hostages. There might be people that are in the way just in general and are not necessarily being wielded by the assailants, but might very well be in the way and therefore could be considered as collateral if those particular things.
You're taking the words out of my mouth. They're just collateral damage. That happens all the time, really.
They're in the way of justice. Immediately throws a punch that just goes right through a civilian's chest.
See, that's what I'll make sure to get that one power I told you about, where it's like instant unconsciousness. When gravity comes happening, just touch.
Oh yeah, I quite like that one. Yeah, although you'd have to wait until you get gravity to do so. But yeah,
yeah. There's other ways of dealing with people,
and that's one of the things that I'm liking the idea of
breaking their kneecaps.
I mean, sure.
I mean, it's non-lethal. It's what Batman would do.
I mean, it is literally something Batman would do, like punching in their skull until they're missing teeth and half of their face.
The morally good Batman.
at most, they can never walk again. At minimum, they're just not walking in the moment. It's really not that bad.
I mean, what was someone? I remember someone made a joke about Batman is that he propagates crime because he beats people to the pulp, so they get medical death. And they can't pay it, so they have to go into crime.
No!
And then they get into more medical death.
I remember hearing about this. Yeah, I remember hearing about this. It's like one guy, because it was a joke at one point that someone said, yeah, there was an actual legitimate clown who was like a really nice guy and like helped out and like, donated blood and everything. He was a really nice person. And suddenly Batman thinks it's Joker, punches him, knocks him out, breaks his legs, stuff like this, and he has to go through like this, like he has to go through hospital and everything. The medical bills are so high that he actually does have to work for Joker. Like, he's just a regular clown at one point, and then he's just like, all right, fine, you know what? I now have to take up this life of crime.
Can I go into a tangent about the Batman movie that came out that everyone seemed to have loved?
I mean, I wish we could, but we are now running. We have now run out of time. But maybe
Quick,
next
just
time.
go on while he's doing the intro. He's closing off.
Anyway, thank you everyone for going off. Thanks, Sam.
Next time.
Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you guys have all had a wonderful time. Obviously, check out. Alexa, no, what are you doing? Everyone wants to interrupt the intro. Ugh. Oh dear. Anyway, this has been the Animite Tales podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Obviously, if you want to check out more of our stuff, check us out on hashtag Animite Tales on YouTube, or check out the game that we have, the tabletop RPG Animite Tales, where you get to play with all sorts of different special abilities and superpowers. Make your own characters, whether or not they're using the system of sci-fi or fantasy superhero. It's absolutely up to you. Check us out at animitetales.com, and I am at Animite Tales on Twitter. Thank you very much for listening, and as always, have a wonderful night.
See you in the future.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao for now. Damn it, Kane.